What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. Final three games here without much meaning, but we're going to finish them up for you guys and recap everything that's happened as the Mariners do get a nice W tonight, 2-0 over the A's. They improved to 83 and 77 on the season. I'm going to go ahead and break it down for y'all. Before I do me a favor, smash that like button. It helps out tremendously. Hit that sub button. I've well past 4,200 subs. That was my main goal. Thank you to everybody. Like 2 or 3 subs away from 4,300. So let's see if we can hit that number. And don't forget to comment your thoughts on this game down below. Apologize for the background. Again, not home this weekend. So do apologize for it not being the normal background, or if the sound is off or anything like that, or the lighting especially too. Mariners win 2-0. Bryan Woo, sensational finish to an outstanding season for him. Really good to see Bryan Woo go out on a high note here. He pitches 5 shutout innings tonight, giving up 3 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. Bryce Miller and Bryan Woo will both finish the year with an ERA under 3. Obviously, Bryce Miller pitches a full season. The key for Bryan Woo is just going to be stay healthy. Because my gosh, if this guy can stay healthy, you've got another ace on this staff. What a season for Bryan Woo. Now, it's funny because I've talked about how I was a little bit not as big on Bryce Miller coming into the year, and obviously I've been proven wrong on that. I was very big on Bryan Woo. He was one of my guys I thought would kind of have a big breakout season. And, again, it's going to be a health concern with him, but made every start, I think, minus maybe he had 1 skipped or 2 skipped or something like that when he came off the injured list. And I think the most important thing we saw out of Bryan Woo, obviously he's been fantastic all year, but when he first came off the IL, it was a lot of 4 or 5 inning starts. And we saw in the second half of the year him showing the ability to go 6, 7 innings. And that's going to be huge. Listen, 5 shutout innings is great. 4 shutout innings is great. But eventually you're going to have to show that ability to go deep into the games, and Bryan Woo has shown that. Now tonight, season's over, right? So you're not going to run him out there to throw 100 pitches, so he only throws 70 something tonight. A little bit different scenario tonight, essentially, for the Mariners. But what a season from Bryan Woo, and really looking forward to what he can do next year. Cannot say enough good things about him and Bryce Miller. I know Woo's last start in Texas wasn't great, but to see them finish strong, and again, I know I've said 100 times, but really my concern for this team was those 2 wearing down in September. I mean, multiple concerns with this team, but one of them coming into the year was how are they going to hold up over the course of a full season? And truthfully, I think they were the best pitchers down the stretch. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'd imagine they had the lowest ERAs on the staff here in the last month. So a tremendous finish them. Great outing from Bryan Woo, and he should be very, very happy and proud of the season that he had. Interesting usage of the bullpen tonight. Again, obviously, just getting some guys some looks here in the final 3 games. So, nothing to be critical. And I've kind of stayed away from criticizing Dan Wilson a little bit. It's his first, 30 games this season. Next year we'll start looking a little bit more going, okay, Dan, what are you doing in this spot? What are you doing here? But even had this been Scott, I wouldn't have criticized how they manage the bullpen in games that are, again, I hate to say meaningless because I don't think they're meaningless, but we're not going to remember these 3 games in 5 years. Trust me. So Gabe Spire gets a shot in the 6th inning. I didn't pay attention to his velocity, and I should have, because that's been the key. Some of the results have been okay since he's come back, but he was sitting 91, 92, needs Spire 94, 95 or higher, but does throw a shutout inning with a walk and 2 strikeouts. Good to see. Gregory Santos gets an inning here in the 7th. Shutout inning, kept the ball on the ground, which we know is his forte. Does give up a hit, and what could have been had Santos had a healthy season for the Mariners, because I really think having either him or Brash there all year, we've talked about the Mariners' struggles in the 1-run games, right? Like, I think someone posted the numbers yesterday, I'm not sure who, but in like their last 20 losses, they've had a lead in 14 of them. We've talked about the struggles in the 1-run games, not so much overall, because they did win a lot of them early in the year, but later in the year they struggled there. And again, Brash and Santos being out really did hurt the team. Now every team's had injuries. Talk about the injuries Houston faced, so I'm not trying to make it an excuse for the Mariners, but certainly would have been nice to at least have one of those guys healthy. But maybe Santos will get a couple innings here down the stretch, finish strong, and set up something positive for 25. Saucedo, solid 8th inning, strikes out a couple batters with a shutout inning. Sauce had a little bit of hiccup in the middle of the year, kind of similar to Trent Thornton where it was like, man, is this guy even going to last on the roster? But Sauce actually been really solid the last couple months, has really rebounded. Certainly hasn't pitched as much and hasn't been used in as many high leverage spots, but has bounced back to have a pretty solid season for the Mariners. And how about Troy Taylor finishing it up for his first big league save? Gives up the leadoff double, and then the runner gets to third on a wild pitch. So essentially, Taylor works out of a runner at third with nobody outs and does not give up that run. Now it's a 2-0 lead. So if you do give up that run, whatever. But Taylor is able to wiggle around that without giving up the run with a couple strikeouts. So nice to see Taylor get a shot with the save there. Probably won't be available tomorrow, but would like to see him get those opportunities here in the final couple games. So nice. Listen, anytime you pitch a shutout, it's a good thing. The Oakland bats have been better in the second half of the year. I know there's a lot on their minds and hearts as well, finishing up in Oakland yesterday. So wouldn't be shocked if Oakland kind of, I don't want to use the word rolls over in this series, but that's got to be emotionally draining what they went through this past week. And certainly, I'll talk about that really quickly. I grew up in the Bay Area. Well, grew up in Seattle, but spent my junior high school years in the Bay Area. So I would went to the Oakland Coliseum more than what's San Francisco now, Oracle. I think it was Pac Bell when I was there, but spent more time in the Oakland Coliseum because the Mariners played there every year. And that was back when teams would play 3 series. So, I was at 8 to 10 Mariners games a year in Oakland. And, it won't go down as the prettiest ballpark of all time, but I'll tell you what, I had some good memories there. I don't know how much I can get into on YouTube without getting demonetized, but let's just say we weren't 21 and you could get that 30-pack of Busch Light in the parking lot. Nobody cared. Well, I'll just leave it at that. And we had a blast. And the Oakland Coliseum has a special place in my heart. It really does. So my thoughts and everything go out to Oakland fans. I think you guys were done dirty. Baseball, that's a great fan base when that team's going. And, it's unfortunate what's happened to them. So I will certainly miss the A's in Oakland for sure. Let's move on to the offense here. Not a lot, 2 runs, Mitch Garver, solo home run, and Cal Raleigh. So your 2 catchers have the home runs. Big story for Cal. He's at 97 RBIs. Please find a way to get him some RBI opportunities the last 2 days. Listen, RBIs are not a predictive statistic. They're reliant on other people being on base in front of you. So you have no idea, listen, you get a home run, but if nobody's on base, it's only gonna be 1 RBI. So you can't control what's in front of you, but RBIs are kind of one of those stats where it's not predictive. And I don't think you can look at a guy, oh, he's a 100 RBI guy, therefore he's a great player, but they do matter, right? You have to bring runs in. So, with that said, I love Cal's at 97, hits his 32nd home run. Would love to see 3 more RBIs from Cal Raleigh this weekend. Not sure if he probably won't play both days. I imagine he'll catch maybe Saturday or Sunday. But man, if you get a couple on Cal, swing for those fences and get those 100 RBIs, would be really cool. Really cool to see for probably my favorite player on the Seattle Mariners. And then Mitch Garver goes deep as well. Listen, of course, on what was it? Let's say Friday, Thursday was off. Wednesday, Tuesday, I said I was done with Mitch Garver. I didn't want to see him in a Mariner uniform again this year. And I think he's played in every game since, and he's homered in every game since. Typical of what I've said. Listen, I was emotional after they lost that game. Season was over. Obviously, Mitch Garver, fine, get him some at-bats. And he's had a nice September, right? He has been good against left-handed pitching this year. It's not all what you signed him up to be a platoon DH. Here's my take on Mitch Garver, because I know people are going to want him gone in the offseason. My opposed Marv is done watching him at-bats this year, but he can catch, right? He's shown he can handle it. He's not Cal Raleigh, but he's solid, and he can hit left-handed pitching. You could trade him in the offseason, but here's the problem with trading Mitch Garver. You're going to have to eat probably half the contract, if not more. And what are you going to get back for Mitch Garver? A double-A pitcher that's probably going to be DFA'd in a month, after you trade for him. I think your best bet is hold on to Mitch Garver. He's your backup catcher, and he can hit lefties. So you play him against lefties. Maybe he finds something and can DH still occasionally. I actually think it would make more sense to hold on to Mitch Garver next year. That ability to catch gives him value. You might be saying, well, Jay, why are you out on Mitch Haniger? Mitch Haniger is an outfielder. This team has plenty of outfield depth. It's not hard to find good hitting outfielders. I mean, I'm not saying they're just a dime a dozen, but it's easier to find that. And truthfully, you do. You have Victor Robles, Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, and Luke Raley. Even Dylan Moore can play out there and hit lefties all right. Mitch Haniger does not bring anything to the table defensively, and he doesn't bring anything to the table on the base paths. Now, Garver doesn't bring anything on the base paths either, but he can catch, and that alone gives him value. There's not a lot of good hitting backup catchers out there. Tom Murphy was one of the few, and the guy can't stay healthy. We saw this year, Sebi Zavala, that didn't work out. I'm probably, and listen, we'll see how the offseason goes. I'm probably hanging on to Mitch Garver. I just don't think if you're going to go for it in 25, which I think this team should, you're not going to have a lot of better options. You already owe him the money. Just keep it on the books, because if you trade him, what are you going to do for backup catcher? Zavala again? I'd rather roll with Mitch Garver as your backup catcher. It wouldn't make that contract good, but at least you could get some value out of it. So that's my take on Garver for 2025. And that's probably where I'll stand. We'll see what happens again as we get into the offseason. Not much else say. 4 hits total for the Mariners. Cal, Garver. Nice game for Mitch Haniger. I want to see Mitch Haniger play these final 3 games. One of my favorite Mariners of all time. I know I just felt like I bashed him 2 minutes ago, but a tremendous Seattle Mariner. Obviously not the same production that he's had in the past. Funny that him and Mitch Garver actually the same OPS of 627, but still the ultimate professional. Let Mitch Haniger play all 3 days, and I hope he gets a standing ovation on Sunday. Nice game day, a base hit and a walk on base a couple times, but Haniger should be in the lineup every day here. I assume Victor Robles probably won't play. He's been so banged up. Give him the final 3 days off. And then the other hit was Luis Urias, who had a nice game with a walk and a hit as well. And then Leo Rivas worked a walk. So not much offensively. JP Sears threw the ball well, but a W for the Mariners. I did see, I think it was the Adam Jude article that talked about Edgar, and it kind of sounds iffy that Edgar will be back as hitting coach in 2025. Sounds like he'll still be involved in the organization, but doesn't really want to take it on full time. Kind of did this as a favor to Dan Wilson for the final 6 weeks of the season. I would love to have Edgar back. I think it's pretty clear he's made some impact here. Listen, some of it is probably just guys playing a little better. No doubt the offense has been better since Dan Wilson and Edgar took over. There's some of it that's probably just random circumstance. There is. The offense was probably due to play better eventually. But we've talked about it, right? They talked about Julio getting I think it was moving his hands in a little tighter. I mean, something like that. And Julio's had his best month of the season. Maybe it's a coincidence. I don't know. But Edgar took over and the offense has been better. So he's certainly not making a negative impact in any way. So I would hope Edgar stays on as hitting coach. We'll see. It sounds like no, but he'll be involved. But yeah, overall, I like what Dan and Edgar have done, and really hard to judge them here for the final 30 games. We'll get a better feel next year as to what they're going to do. But I think the players have bought into Dan. And, I think they've done a pretty solid job. They came into a tough situation here, and I think they've made the most of it. So Mariners win it 2-0. If you guys do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow night. 2 more to go. It's always sad, right? As frustrating as baseball can be, it's just kind of there for you. Football is great because, you get so hyped up, but it's once a week and it's great. Sundays are, amazing. And I love football Sundays. There's nothing better. But baseball is always kind of there for you. Rough Tuesday at work, got a baseball game to at least watch. Even if the game stinks, at least you can get lost in it for 2-3 hours, right? And it's always sad to see the season end. Listen, even Mariners teams of the past that have been atrocious, I've always sad to see baseball go. I'd rather watch my team lose all of 162 than not watch it at all. So I'm definitely sad. Man, it's flown by, though. And like I said, disappointing season. We'll dive into a lot of off-season stuff here soon. But as for today, Mariners get a nice win. We'll see if they can finish off the season here and maybe sweep and get 85 wins. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.